Hello and welcome to exercise 1 of KJ's crash course. I'm KJ and I'm super excited that you're here because it means you've watched the promo video probably, downloaded the software, and now you're like, you know what? I'm ready to start building something. So congratulations to you. You've taken a step more than most people will, which is kind of shocking because as you go through this, you're going to realize building an automation is quite easy. Anyways, exercise 1 is going to be the basics. What we're going to do is we're going to build a simple automation. As you can see here on the screen, we have this website. It's acmetest.uipath.com. We are at the login screen, and we're going to build an automation to log into said application. Okay, so feel free to go ahead in your browser and open this page up. In the interim, what you may need to do if you don't have an email or a password to log in is click this register button. I'm actually going to register KJ's crash course because I haven't done it before. Okay, so what you would do is go ahead and register. You do have to have the creds. This website's also really great from a just building test automation perspective because it comes with a whole list of work items that we're actually going to iterate through, I think, in exercise 5. But it has a bunch of different things that you can do. It's funny that has the I'm not a robot with the recaptcha there. But it's a super way to just build a lot of stuff, test out your knowledge, and so on and so forth. So keep this bookmarked for the future if you want to build some stuff out. But super simple, right? What are you going to do? We're going to put in our email here that we used. It doesn't need to be the same as what you registered or downloaded Studio with, but for feasibility purposes, I'm sure you will. Right? Create yourself a password here. Remember that, agree to the terms. You can read them if you want. We're not tracking anything. Click I'm not a robot, and then click register. I do believe it asks you to go authenticate. I may need to log into my Gmail real quick and do that. Oh, okay, maybe not. So right there, it gives you everything you need, and you're logged in. Okay, so remember that username and password because we're actually going to use it inside of the automation. Okay, so as you build this out, feel free to keep that in mind. All right, so then log out. So the process we're going to build, right? Whenever you're building an automation, you have to understand what's happening at the clickstroke level, at least enough to be able to understand the activities we're going to use to build it. Okay, so just like we would, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to, let me just copy this real quick, close this down, right? What are we going to do? We're going to open Chrome, right? And I've got a bunch of bookmark things here. I'm going to close that down. We're going to navigate to this website. And then from that, what are we going to do? We're going to type in our username. We're going to type in our password. You can click remember me if you want. It's not going to matter whenever you close it down. And you're going to click login. And assuming we build all of that, that's the automation we're going to build today. Okay, just a simple login. Why I think this is important, it teaches you 3 core activities from the UI perspective that you're going to use virtually for like every automation that you're going to build. Okay. And we're going to see that in real time. I'm going to show you how to build that right here. What's nice about login applications, let's say you don't have a single, single sign-on, I think is the SSO stands for. Yeah, assuming you don't have a single sign-on, a way to authenticate, it's a nice little way to put something in your assistant, which we'll talk about later at the end of the course, to just click something to log in, right? Don't have to worry about fat fingering or locking yourself out, which is super cool. Okay, so assuming we've got the website open and you've registered, let's go ahead and open up Studio. All right, and we are going to create our first automation. How we do that is we go to this process button here at the top right. And then from that, you will give it a name. And then remember where this location is so you can open it up later. We're going to do some really cool, I call it hacky stuff, but it's really not hacky because in exercise 2, we're actually going to do something to this automation and just edit it. Okay, so the name, I'll call it login to Acme, Acme exercise 1, right? First automation. Right? You don't have to follow this. You can just give it a name as long as you know that the name was the first exercise. That way you can correlate it to the end of program materials later on. Okay, so right here, first automation, right? Replicates login to that. Great. Leave everything as default. Click create, and then it'll pull us into the designer to get started. And okay, looks like we are in here. Great. So in the sequence, right, first thing we need to do is we need to tell the robot what application we're interacting with. So the activity that we use to do that, remember in the first exercise, or exercise 0 rather, right? We have this activities pane, click on that, and then search for use application/browser, okay? It's gonna pull up. It is how we tell the robot what application to actually interact with. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do the drag and drop principle, where you get that blue icon to pop up here. Or if it's the next activity that's going to be in the sequence, you can also double click. Both are going to work, okay? And then what will happen is once you pull that activity in, it's going to ask you to indicate application to automate. So this is our proprietary technology in action, and this is why UiPath has become best in breed, okay? What we're doing is we're actually going to click this, and then you'll see this green box that pops up, and you'll notice at the top it says UiPath Web Automation 2020.10 or whatever version you download is debugging the browser. You can click anywhere inside this, because with 2 clicks we are telling the robot we are interacting with Chrome or Edge or Firefox or whatever browser you're using, right? The URL is this, and then every time that is what we're going to use for this exercise, okay? If you have the properties pane tabbed, you'll notice some properties here. Don't worry about them right now. We don't need to edit those for this exercise. Just know if it pops up, it's there. Great, fantastic. You can look around and click around, but that's about it, okay? So with that click, we did it. If there's an instance where maybe, for example, you decide to indicate and you're like, oh, the application isn't popped up, there's a trick. If you hit F2, it'll give you 5 seconds to pop open the application that you need, right? As long as that window was the foremost window prior to doing that, you'll be able to click it right there. You can also just as easily click escape, make sure this is opened accordingly. I didn't mean to open that. Oh, let me close that down. Right? Open this, make sure it's the foremost window like I mentioned, go back here, and then you can click that indicate or hit that button right there and do this again, okay? It'll come in handy because sometimes people will try to spy the bottom way. They do this. They'll be like, oh, I didn't have it open, and then they try to click this, and then it looks like a toolbar, and then that's not what we're trying to do, okay? So just showing you a bunch of stuff. If you had it the way it was before, you're all good. Just walking you through all the things that might happen, all right? So now it's telling the robot we are going to use Chrome, specifically that login screen, all right? Then what are we going to do? Well, we need to type in our username and password, right? So you guessed it. The activity we're searching for is called type into. So we're going to either double click or drag it into the do block, because if we try to think about how a sequence works, right? Within the sequence, we are using this application, and what are we going to do inside that application, which is why the sequence block is called do, okay? And then right here, you'll see a type into, indicate in whatever browser you're using. You'll click that, and then you'll notice the green box now has been slimmed down to all of the different elements. We are going to click that email box, right? What it's going to do is anchor. This is our technology. You don't need to worry about anchors for now. All the exercises are going to work if you just click on the element, right? It says right there, that is our target. We click confirm. And then right there, it says type into. Well, look at that. The tag is email. Awesome. And then what are we typing? Well, we're typing in our email that we registered with. So if you put that in right here, what you'll notice is I put it in quotes, okay? What you can do is you can go to right here, anytime you pass what we call a string, right, which is just a set of text, right, what you need to do is you need to have that in quotation marks, okay? So it needs to look like this. If you take the quotation marks away, you are going to get an error like so. And it's going to tell you, right, there is an error. Why? Right, because it's not declared, meaning that it would be a variable. We learned about variables in the next exercise. Okay, so type into email. Remember, wrap all of that in quotes. You'll do this quite frequently throughout the exercises, so just know what you're doing is the concept of hard coding something, which is why we cover variables in the next lesson. Right. So then from that, we type in our email. Then what we do is we type in a password. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can Control-C, click under Control-V. You could do it the more old school way, copy, right click, hit paste, or just as easily, right, you can drag in another type into, right? If you do the copy and paste, you'll just need to use this to indicate your new target, okay? So we drag in another type into. What do? We click into that password field, and then right there, we do this. What's super awesome about our technology, right? Or sometimes it does this, sometimes it doesn't, is sometimes it's able to identify if it is a password field, right? And then you see right there, standard and secure. you could also put in a secure string variable as well. So if people are asking like, oh, how do I make this more robust? We do have a credential vault that you can pull from. We can also link into third-party things if you want. Not necessary for this exercise, just some people are probably going to ask, right? You can always make it secure and do that, but we're just going to put in our password here accordingly. But as you can see, if I type in, see how it does that? It's automatically recognized that this is a password field. So even if you're going to put in your hard-coded password here, what's nice is it's not going to yell at you. So you can feel free to put that in without quotation marks, and then that is the password that it's going to send, although I have no problem sharing mine. If you do that, it'll make sure that it's there. Okay, so you do not need to put it in quotes unless you are doing it without the I. If you have the I there, right, you don't need to put the quotation marks there. Okay, so just make sure it looks like this with the I. I'm obviously not seeing yours. Do that so we can see right here, type into, and then what's the final step? Well, we need to click log in. So we're going to pull this in. What are we going to click? We're going to click that login button, click confirm, just like we saw, and right there with a few easy steps, and really, if you do this, it'll take 30 seconds. I just spent some time to explain it. That is your login automation. Then from there, what you can do is either leave this open or close down the browser. It'll open if it's not open already. And then if you want to run this and see how it works, either click run or run file or debug for that matter, you can do it. And as you run it, you should see an output that looks like this once it compiles and actually decides to run. There you go, password input, and we clicked login. And just a way to check to make sure, go here, and assuming it decides to finish, Microsoft decided to update their applications on me once again while this was running, so that's why it was slow. But assuming that worked, we should get to a screen that looks like this. So once again, all the activities were that we went through: use a browser, application/browser, type into, and click. You are going to use those for virtually every UI-based automation that you create from here on out. So congratulations on building your first login module. Feel free to continue on to exercise 2 and or review the supplemental materials afterwards, a PowerPoint that walks through the terms and a workflow of this as well. This is KJ signing off, and I hope to see you for exercise 2, where we learn the concept of a variable. Cheers, guys.